Picture the smartest person you know. You're at a social gathering, and there they are, standing just off to the side, not buried in their phone, not awkwardly waiting for someone, just observing, eyes scanning the room, calm, detached, maybe even a little cold. People assume they're shy or arrogant, or just not very social. But what if it's not that simple? What if there's something deeper, something darker going on? What if intelligent people don't choose to be alone? What if their mind pushes them there? Arthur Schopenhauer saw it clearly. He once wrote, "A high degree of intellect tends to make a man unsocial." Not because of ego, not because of awkwardness, but because intelligence itself becomes a kind of social barrier, a wall that rises the smarter you become. Schopenhauer wasn't some bitter loner who couldn't make friends. He was a philosopher who understood human nature so thoroughly that being around people actually became intolerable. He realized something that still rings true today. The more someone has within themselves, the less they need, or even want, from others. It's not a choice, it's a consequence. So, why exactly does intelligence lead to loneliness? Let's break it down. Reason 1. They see through the act. Imagine sitting in a theater, watching a performance. The crowd around you is cheering, crying, buying into every emotion. But you can see the strings. You know it's just a play. That's what social life feels like to someone highly intelligent. While others are chasing money, validation, romantic attention, they're convinced it'll make them happy. The intelligent person sees through it all. When someone brags about their promotion, they don't see success. They see insecurity wrapped in a job title. When someone obsesses over their looks, they don't see beauty. They see fear of death. When everyone follows trends, they don't see originality. They see herd behavior disguised as individuality. So, how do you connect with people when all you see is the performance? You don't. You observe from a distance. Reasons 2. Conversation feels like torture. Most people bond over small talk, sports scores, celebrity drama, random weather comments. But for someone with a deeply analytical mind, that's painful. Not because they think they're better, but because their thoughts live on a completely different level. Their brain is wired to explore consciousness, morality, suffering, purpose. They want to discuss ideas, not headlines. Depth, not fluff. Now, imagine constantly being pulled into shallow waters when your mind lives in the deep end. Eventually, it's easier to stay silent or stay away. Reason 3. Their honesty hurts people. Schopenhauer used a powerful metaphor. Porcupines trying to huddle for warmth. The closer they get, the more they prick each other, so they pull apart. Then they freeze, and the cycle repeats. For highly intelligent people, their thoughts, their insights, are like those quills. They don't try to hurt anyone, but when they speak honestly, they often do. They point out logical flaws, question comforting beliefs, refuse to play along with polite illusions. They ask the questions others avoid, and unintentionally, they cause discomfort. They care. But the more they care, the more likely they are to hurt. So eventually, they choose distance, not out of cruelty, but out of compassion. Reason 4. They escape through art. Most people connect through entertainment, games, shows, shared laughs. But for the highly intelligent, relief comes in something much quieter. Art, music, literature, not as a hobby, but as a form of escape. Schopenhauer believed great art was the only thing that could silence the endless cravings of the human will, the constant striving, needing, grasping. In those moments, they're free. But here's the problem. That freedom can't be shared. You can't exactly bring it up at a party. You can't explain how a symphony helped you transcend human suffering. So, once again, the thing that brings them peace pulls them further away from people. Reason 5. The exhaustion of pretending. Every social setting demands a little performance, but for highly intelligent people, it becomes full-time theater. They are constantly translating their thoughts into something more acceptable, watering down their words, faking interest in things they don't care about, dodging the topics that really matter to them because they know most people won't get it. Or worse, will feel threatened by it. So, they start lying. Not the obvious kind. It's more subtle. They lie by omission, they nod at the surface level stuff, they smile when they're bored, they act interested when they're dying inside. Over time, this dishonesty drains them. Their mind is starving for truth, but their mouth keeps feeding the world comfort food. Eventually, they realize it's easier to be alone than to keep acting. Reasons: the compassion problem. Here's the paradox. The more intelligent you are, the more you understand people's suffering. You see how unconscious most behavior is, how people are trapped in loops they can't even recognize. You see the fear behind their anger, the loneliness behind their bragging, the pain behind their cruelty. And you feel compassion, real compassion, but not the kind you can share in a simple conversation. Because while everyone else is immersed in their illusions, you're standing outside them. It's like being the only sober person at a party. You care deeply, but you can't fake the fun. So you stand there, watching, understanding, hurting, and again, choosing solitude. Reason: 7. The genius wall. Schopenhauer said that genius isn't about raw brain power. It's about clarity, seeing what others can't, noticing patterns they ignore, recognizing truths they'd rather not face. But here's the catch. When you see that much, explaining yourself becomes almost impossible. Imagine trying to teach advanced calculus to someone who's still learning basic math. That's what conversations feel like. Not because the genius thinks they're superior, but because their thoughts are just farther down the road. And that communication gap becomes a wall. Not a wall they build, but one that grows between them and the rest of the world. The more clearly they see, the more alone they feel. Reason: 8. Misunderstood as misanthropes. Here's the most common misunderstanding. People think these loners hate others, that they look down on humanity, that they're cynical. But Schopenhauer argued the opposite. He said they don't hate people. They understand them too well. They see the suffering behind the masks, the pain behind the pride, and this understanding leads to a deep, quiet sadness. Not anger, not arrogance, just the painful knowledge that most people are lost in forces they can't control, chasing things that will never satisfy them. So, how do you join a game you know is rigged? How do you cheer for a system you know is broken? How do you play along when every move feels like a lie? You don't. You step back. The modern world makes it worse. Now take everything Schopenhauer observed and multiply it by 1,000. That's the modern world. Social media, networking, influencer culture. Everything is performance, 24/7. You're expected to constantly engage, post, like, react, respond. And for the highly intelligent, it's suffocating. Imagine being asked to act like Instagram likes means something, when you fully understand how social validation rewires the brain. Imagine being pushed to build fake relationships at networking events, when you can see right through the superficial motives. Imagine being told to keep up with viral trends, when you understand how those trends are manufactured distractions. For someone who sees the mechanisms beneath it all, modern social life isn't just annoying, it's psychological torture. The very tools designed to connect people actually make intelligent individuals feel more alone than ever. And this leads us to Schopenhauer's most haunting conclusion. Unsocial behavior isn't a choice for the highly intelligent. It's inevitable. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Once you understand the unconscious forces driving behavior, the emptiness of most modern pursuits, the way people cling to comforting illusions, you can't just go back. You can pretend, you can play the game, but it takes everything out of you. Eventually, pretending feels like betrayal, and so withdrawal becomes the only honest option left. But there's a strange freedom in that. Schopenhauer didn't see this isolation as a tragedy. He saw it as liberation. He believed that solitude wasn't a punishment. It was the natural home for the thinking mind. Because in solitude, you're not performing. You're not censoring your thoughts. You're not editing your vocabulary to fit in. You're just you. Pure, unfiltered, real. That's not sad. That's powerful. Because the very isolation that once made you feel alien becomes the space where your truest thoughts are born. The quiet where wisdom can actually grow. That's why Schopenhauer's thoughts still resonate today. He chose solitude, and because of that, he gave us truths that still comfort the misfits, the thinkers, the quiet minds among us. So, if you're someone who feels fundamentally out of place in social spaces, if you walk into a room and immediately feel like your thoughts have nowhere to go, if you find connection exhausting, shallow, or forced, you're not broken, you're not antisocial, you're not failing at being human. You may simply be succeeding at being honest in a world that rewards comfortable lies. The question is, what will you choose? Will you keep contorting yourself to fit in? Will you hide your depth just to survive the shallows? Or will you accept the solitude your mind was made for? Because sometimes the most authentic connection you'll ever make is with yourself. And that's not weakness, that's wisdom.